Hey everybody, welcome to Chapter 3 in my series on music theory for guitarists. The theme today is the major chord. Hopefully you've seen Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 in this series. If not, I highly recommend them. But today's theme, Chapter 3 here, is the major chord. Now whether you've been playing chords for quite a while or you're new to the guitar and you're just learning your chords, it really helps to know the music theory behind major chords so you understand more about what you're doing. So if you're ready, let's get down to business. If you enjoy this video, and I hope you do, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. You'll have information down below. And if you go to my YouTube page, there's a chance for you to make a donation to me. Just look for the PayPal icon. You can click on that and make a donation. I appreciate it. Okay, let's get down to business. Now, major chords are directly related to major scales. If you understand major scales, it's pretty clear where major chords come from. It's a simple formula. Here's how it works. The formula is, we take a major scale, in this case I wrote out the G major scale, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. You take a G major scale and you specifically choose the first, third, and fifth notes from the G major scale. That's G, B, and D. Okay, also known as the first degree of the scale, the third degree, and the fifth degree of the scale. Now, when you take the first, third, and fifth notes or degrees from a major scale and play them together at the same time, you get a major chord. Okay? Now I'm using G major as my example here because G major is such a common chord that we've all played a million times, right? And if you're learning how to play the guitar, trust me, you will play G endlessly. There's so many songs that have a G major chord. So here's how it works. I just explained how there are three ingredients to a major chord: the first, third, and fifth degrees of a major scale. Now when I strum my G chord, of course I'm strumming across 6 strings, right? My pick is strumming across 6 different strings. So you might say to yourself, well, I thought there was only 3 notes to make a major chord. And the answer is, yeah, that's right, 3 notes. So here's what happens. When I grab my G major my G major chord here, I'm strumming 6 strings, but if I named every note that I'm producing, there are only 3 different names of notes. And here's what I mean by that. Let's start on the fat string. I have my G chord, right? Fat string, 3rd fret. That's the note G. 5th string, 2nd fret. That's B. 4th string is open, D. I'm going to pause right there. I have my G, my B, and my D. And according to our formula here, all we need, technically, to be giving the world a G major chord is a G, a B, and a D. I could stop my strum right there. I could go G, B, and D. That's my 3 bass strings. And technically I'm giving the world a G major chord. Now the reason we don't stop there is because the guitar sounds so nice when you strum all 6 strings. So the 3 remaining strings, when I hold on to my G chord, my 3rd skinny string is open, that's a G. My 2nd skinny string is open, that's a B. And my skinny string, where my pinky is right there, skinny string 3rd fret, is another G. So even though I'm adding these 3 higher sounds, there's no real new information there, meaning the names of those 3 notes are names you've already come across before. So check this out. I'm going to go from the fat string over to the skinny string. I'm going to name each sound I'm producing, as long as I'm holding down the G chord, right? Here's the sound I'm producing. G, B, B as in baseball, D like dog, G again, B again, and G again. Okay, 6 strings, but truly only 3 different names of the notes. So our G major chord is made up of G, B, and D. It just so happens that when we strum, we have some extra G's and B's in there, okay? But it sounds great to strum all 6 strings, so that's what we do. Now, before the end of this video, we're going to come back to this G chord. We're going to revisit it, because those 3 open strings I talked about, open 4th string D, open 3rd string G, and open 2nd string B, the fact that those 3 strings are open when I grab a G chord and strum is going to be really significant, so stay tuned, because before the end of this video we'll talk about those 3 strings. Okay, moving on now. So hopefully you're getting a grasp as to the kind of easy math, the easy formula involved in major chords. You find a major scale, you play the first, third, and fifth notes from the major scale, you strum those notes all at the same time, and you get a major chord. Pretty simple, right? Let's move on. Here's the C major scale. Now the C major scale is the easiest to look at because the C major scale just looks like an unadulterated alphabet. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. None of those pesky flats and sharps or anything like that. There's a C major scale. Don't worry about how to play it. Right now I just want to get that sound in your head. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Okay, there's your classic major scale sound. Now, by definition, according to the formula here, a C major chord is made up of the following three notes. The note C, the note E, and the note G. See my handy chart here, 1, 3, and 5? A C, an E, and a G. There's your C major chord. So here I'm going to grab my C major chord. And this time for the fun of it, I'm going to start with a skinny string. So I'm grabbing a C major chord. And presumably, any sound my guitar makes is either going to be a note C, a note E, or a note G, right? Because that's the definition of a C major chord. So skinny string is open, open E. That's part of the definition of a C major chord. Second string, first fret, the note C. Third string open, that's G. Fourth string, second fret, that's E. Fifth string, third fret, that's C. And we come to the fat string open. Let's pause there for a second. A lot of you might have learned when you play a C chord, you do not strum the fat string. You strum the other 5. And that's fine, no problem there. If you do strum the fat string during a C chord, it doesn't make a horrible sound. It's kind of a low booming E, but technically E is a legal note, right? It's a C major chord, and E is the 3rd degree. So technically that low boomy E is a valid note in this chord. Many of us don't love that note in there because it's so low and boomy. And technically, if you want to get technical about it, if you do strum all 6 strings during a C major chord, the name is actually a C major chord with E as the bass note. And it's written C/E. You might have seen that in some of the material you've seen, C/E. That means a C chord with E as the lowest note. Okay, little aside. Moving on to the D major chord. I think by now you know where we're coming from, okay? The D major chord. By definition, it's the 1st, 3rd, and 5th notes of a D major scale, right? That gives us a D, an F sharp, and an A. And when I grab my D major chord, my skinny string 2nd fret, that's F sharp. 2nd string 3rd fret, that's my D. 3rd string 2nd fret, that's A. 4th string open, that's D. And like I mentioned with the C chord, the open 5th string A is a perfectly legal note. It's an A after all, right? It's the 5th degree of a D major scale. But occasionally you'll see it written out, you'll see a D chord written with X's over the 2 fat strings, or maybe some sort of discouragement to playing the 2 fat strings. In reality, the open A string, the 5th string, sounds totally harmonious. Again, technically, if you include that open 5th string when you strum, the name would be D/A, D with A in the bass. Someday I'll do a video about slash chords because there seems to be a lot of confusion about what slash chords are. It just means a chord with a somehow unique note as the lowest note, a note that is anything other than the root note of the chord. I'm digressing here, don't worry, we'll do one of those videos before long, slash chords. Okay, so I have a little bit more to say here about major chords, but we'll keep this video short so you can move on to the other videos in this series. By now you get the idea, right? Major chord is the 1st, 3rd, and 5th notes from a major scale played at the same time, right? Okay, guitars are made for chord playing. We love to play chords on the guitars, right? Because any singer who's singing needs those chords there in the background, right? Any trumpet player who's playing a nice trumpet solo, it's nice to have some chords in the background, right? It fills out the sound, it's the foundation. Because the guitar is portable, relatively small, relatively affordable, hopefully, right? Guitars are always asked to provide chords in situations, whether it's school, church, concert, you name it. If they need chords, we're there to play chords for them. Of course, you can play chords on a piano too. Pianos aren't quite as portable, they aren't quite as affordable. So guitars, my opinion is guitars are going to be around for a long time because it's the absolute most convenient instrument to play chords on. And as long as there are songs and singers and instrumentalists, they'll have a need for chords, and they'll have a need for a nice, beautiful, small, affordable instrument to play those chords in the background. So I don't think the guitar is going anywhere anytime soon. But for all those of you out there who might have some piano experience, of course, you know, pianists play chords for tons and tons of situations. Banjos can provide chords, mandolins can provide chords, accordions, but there's nothing quite like chords on the guitar. Okay, so we talked about the basic formula here, right? The basic formula of major chords. And by the way, there are formulas for minor chords and seventh chords and all those. Those will be other videos. We'll get to those before long. Now, there's a couple other things I want to talk to you about regarding major chords. You might have noticed chords called major 7 chords, major 6th chords. Imagine this. Imagine if the formula was 1, 3, 5, 6. A G major 6th chord would have a G, a B, a D, and an E. Does that make sense? A G major 6, sometimes it's just called a G6 chord. A G major 7th chord would have a G, a B, a D, and an F sharp. Okay? It would have the 1, the 3, the 5, and the 7. So the name would be a G major 7 chord. Nothing mysterious about this. All those numbers you see relating to chords, the numbers just have to do with the degrees of the scale. You might see a suspended 4th chord, okay? Or a minor 7th chord and so on. All those numbers you see, it just has to do with these scales. And before long we'll do some videos on those other chords too. Okay, now, here's some things I want you to notice. It's really convenient that we have this chart here in front of us. As some of you probably have realized, there are tons of songs built on G, C, and D chords. In fact, if all you ever learn is a G, a C, and a D chord, you could actually play a surprising number of songs. Now check this out. You know how G, B, and D are a G major chord? And C, E, and G are a C major chord? Take a look. You ever notice how the notes C, E, and G, which is a C major chord, those notes are found within the G scale? It's not a coincidence. I'm going to say that again. Here we have the G major scale, here we have the C major scale. We know a C major chord is C, E, and G, right? Now those 3 notes are found within a G major scale, C, E, and G. Not a coincidence. That's one way to explain why G and C chords sound so good together when you play G and change to C. Okay, they fit well, they overlap with each other, you know. In fact, there's G, B, and D from a G major scale, right? So the fact that these things overlap is not a coincidence. Here's another one. We know a D major scale, a D major chord, is a D, F sharp, and A, right? Well, look up here. A D, an F sharp, and an A. Those 3 notes are also found in a G major scale. So within the G major scale, we can actually find the building blocks for C major chords and D major chords. Okay? And that overlap, again, is one way to explain why these 3 chords sound so good together. They all can be found in one location, the G major scale. Okay? And so when someone talks about a song being in the key of G, what often they're talking about is chords that come from the G major scale. The C chord can be drawn from the G major scale, the D chord can be drawn from the G major scale, and of course the G chord, G, B, D, of course that can definitely be drawn from the G major scale. And this overlap can be a little confusing at first, but if you've played songs with G, C, and D and you know how those chords sound good together, now you're beginning to get a sense of why they sound good together, you know? Okay. Now, I'm going to wrap up the video in a minute, but I want to give you one more tip here. It's one of my favorite things to do on the guitar. So if you've stuck around for this long on the video, I'm glad you did because I can't wait to show you this. The G major chord As you probably know, the typical way of strumming a G major chord, the typical way of fingering the G major chord, involves 3 open strings. The second string is open, the third string is open, and the fourth string is open, right? It's the most common way of fingering a G major chord. It involves 3 open strings, okay? Now, you might have noticed the 3 open strings are the open B, that's the second string, open G, that's the third string, open D, that's the fourth string. Now those 3 notes, B, G, and D, take a look over here. B, G, and D, that is a G major chord. All you need is those 3 notes. Doesn't matter which one is higher or lower, doesn't matter as long as you have at least one B, at least one G, and at least one D. You are giving the world a G major chord. So imagine this. Imagine, a song tells you to play a G chord, and all you strummed were 3 open strings. Open D, that's the fourth string. Open G, that's the third string. And open B, that's the second string. So I'm only going to strum the fourth, third, and second strings. And I'm cheating a little bit. I'm using my ring finger. I'm grabbing onto my skinny string with my ring finger. So even if I hit that skinny string by mistake, it's going to be dead sounding, right? Okay, so according to our formula here, I am playing a B, a G, and a D. And I officially am fulfilling my obligations of a G major chord, right? 3 open strings. Now the reason I make such a big production about this is because those 3 open strings, right, produce a G major chord. With one finger, I can change those 3 open strings to first fret, second string, first fret, third string, first fret, fourth string. And it still sounds totally harmonious. It's a one finger major chord. Now, I'm going to review that in a second. But the fact that we can produce a major chord sound, or literally a major chord, with one finger is huge. Everybody does this, especially electric guitar players, but anyone who plays acoustic guitar, this is handy as well. Okay, now I'm going to go over this again, don't worry. Here's another way of looking at it, by the way. If you know your A major chord, take a minute and play your A major chord with one finger. Now, we don't want the skinny string to make any sound at all. Don't even strum the skinny string. But you can strum the fourth, third, and second strings. Again, I'm doing A with one finger. Instead of 3 fingers, the way we typically do A, I'm doing it with one finger. Okay? You'll see why this is helpful in a second. So those 3 notes, take my word for it, those 3 notes are all you need to officially be playing an A chord. Second fret, second fret, second fret. Okay? Now we started with a G chord. And I pointed out how the G chord has 3 open strings. Those 3 open strings technically are all you need to produce a G major chord. So technically it's as if I had my finger pressing down at 0, 0, 0. Now, of course that's ridiculous, but I want to get that image in your head. I'm pressing at 0, 0, 0 and I'm getting a G chord. Pressing at 2, 2, 2, I'm getting an A chord. Pressing at 4, 4, 4, I'm getting a B chord. And so on, okay? In fact, any song that requires you to play major chords, any major chords you're ever asked to play, you could play the major chords with one finger. Tragically, if you lose these 3 fingers in a tragic banjo accident, you'll still be able to play major chords with your thumb and your pointer. Okay? So, if you're not clear on everything I just said, review the tape a little bit and go back. The idea is we're using G chord as our proof that the open second, third, and fourth strings produce a major chord, in this case a G major chord. And if those 3 produce a G major chord, then any 3 strings, or any one finger grip on the second, third, and fourth string at any fret, that's what I should say, at any fret, is going to get a major chord, okay? And the examples I used was like they were a one finger A chord, that's at the 2nd fret, a one finger C chord, that's at the 5th fret. Now I'm being very careful to only strum my 4th, 3rd, and 2nd strings. I'm totally avoiding my skinny string, I'm damping out a little bit with my ring finger, okay? fact, imagine doing a song that asks you to go back and forth from A to G. One finger and your thumb. Okay? Now, hold on to your other fingers. You're going to need them. But, like I said, we're playing major chords with one finger. And in a future video, I'll show you how you can play minor chords with one finger. Then you're truly all set. Okay, now before we go, I want to run you through a little something just for fun. A famous song, name this tune. You ready? Name this tune. A famous song that relies on this one finger major chord technique. Because these other fingers are free, this fantastic guitar player I'm about to quote from here came up with a beautiful rock and roll riff based on this one finger major chord with other fingers adding on. Okay? Now before I play this, thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please look below on how you can subscribe to my YouTube page. Head over to my YouTube page, and if you care to, you can make a donation. Just look for the PayPal icon on the top of the page, and I'd appreciate anything that you can donate. Thanks for watching, everybody. Name this tune, and I'll see you next time.